Hi, I'm Norman Birnbach. I'm the co-author of a book called Stealing Time.
And I'm Tilia Jacobs. I am also co-author of Stealing Time. And we're going to talk to you about writing bios for your characters before you start actually writing the book. And there are several reasons to do this. I always start with an outline because it gives me a good idea of what kinds of people I need to make the plot happen. Um, and also because writing a bio helps me get to know the characters before I have to deploy them. And the final reason is to quote Pixar's rules of storytelling: discount the first thing that comes to mind, get the obvious out of the way. And writing a bio helps you do that. This is really important because otherwise you might end up displaying some of your unconscious bias and creating a character who is either offensive to somebody or is flat and boring because we've seen somebody like them 1,000 times already.
And
So
and
I
write, okay.
go ahead.
And I was just going to jump in and say that writing a bio was especially important because this was our first book together, and we wanted to make sure that we had the characters and that we both understood the characters and made sure that we brought insight to them, but that we were on the same page about who they were, what they were like. And that still gave us room to, since I'm the pantser in this equation, to to come up with something that showcased the some of the characters in ways we didn't expect, but in ways we were very pleased to see, based on what we had written about them in the bios.
Yep. And it gives them just a kind of depth and authenticity that I don't think you get in other ways. So I always start with a template. This is the one I use. And I'm going to read off what is on this. And then if we have time, I can tell you a few examples from Stealing Time. So you start with the character's name, very handy. And of course, I keep these in a folder on my desktop. The basics are this character's age, their sex/gender identity, and their job. And then I go beyond the basics. What is their level of education? What are their hobbies, if any? What's their living space like? What is their workspace like? And these can be very different. I think the workspace might be completely out of somebody's control. The living space, we tend to project our own personalities onto that in a number of ways. Then we go to supporting characters, this person's friends, their family of origin. How many kids were in the family of origin? A single child might have a different psychology from somebody who comes from a family of 8. Were the parents married? And if so, was this a happy marriage? What is the parents' level of education? Because we've already covered the character's level of education. If the parents barely finished high school and the kid is a PhD, that might be an occasion of great joy, but there might also be some tension there. And we go to the present family. Is this person in a committed relationship? Does the person have kids? Has this person created a family via adoption, biology, or creating a close circle of friends who fill the function of a family, also known as chosen family? Then we go to love interest. Was there a love interest in the past? Is there a love interest in the present? And crucial question, how important is this relationship to the story you're telling? If it's a romance, obviously extremely important. If not, maybe not so much. Then we go to values. What is this person's religion? What are their ethics? What are their politics? To me, these questions are a Venn diagram. Somebody might have no religion whatsoever, but be extremely ethical. Somebody might be unethical and very active politically, or they might feel that politics are the public expression of their ethics, which might or might not have a root in religion. Then we go to this person's life, the highlights. A year ago, this character was doing X. 5 years ago, this character was doing XYZ. Then this person's dramatic needs. What are their needs overall? Like, what do they need to accomplish in the story? And then what do they need to do in Act 1, in Act 2, and Act 3? You might feel that you're writing a book that doesn't have specific, crisply defined acts, which is certainly fine. But the chances are it has a beginning, middle, and end, and things are likely to shift for that character throughout the arc of the story. Then there's a space for a brief sketch that is a paragraph or two about this person's life up to this point. And I always keep some room at the end for research links. In other words, maybe I went online and found a painting that this person might have painted, or an apartment that looks like their apartment, how I imagine it to be. Um, if they're a professional surfer, which some of our characters in Stealing Time are, I'm not. So we had to look that up, and some links to surfing sites were very useful. Did you want to add anything to
Well,
that?
I think what it helped us do by going into detail beyond just the name and some of the initial things that are important because you need to have a good name, a name that works. Um, we were able to develop characters who, the secondary characters, who had more light to them than I think than I thought they would have had if we hadn't done that. So there's a the parents are usually in a YA book or movie. The parents are just kind of stand-ins for blocking the kid from doing what they want to do. And in this case, the parents were much more real, and they were much more. There was an ambiguity where we needed that. There was a lot more sympathy where we needed that, and that wasn't necessarily in the outline, but it was in the scene. And it's like, oh, let's do that. This works for this character, and this something else works for that other character. And so that was very helpful in the writing process.
Yeah, and similarly, uh, our bad guys who are a gang of thieves, it would be very easy to write them as two-dimensional thugs. You know, I'm bad because I'm bad. I like breaking laws. Um, but in real life, people generally have a reason for whatever it is they're doing. And if you give people a reason and a background and a life behind what they have to do for you in the story, the chances are, even if they are relegated to the sidelines, they're going to come across as actual people. And I'm going to throw in another tip for free. Don't be afraid of lavishing your best writing on your side characters because they make the whole world seem real. They're like the champagne bubbles that elevate the whole experience.